Good morning. It's 5 a.m. just outside of, actually I'm in Calgary and it's just after 5 a.m. And today we're going to do a practice legs, pelvis to spine. And I know that sounds incredibly sexy in terms of will this practice reduce your back pain or eradicate your back pain or eradicate your SI joint pain? What are the 7 steps to reducing that kind of pain? It might. We need to determine the relationship between how your legs are moving, your pelvis is moving, your spine is moving, how your rib cage is moving. So today that's what we're going to play with. We're going to play with some movement between the leg bones and the pelvis and the spine so that you can become aware of how these parts are related and how they contribute to, if you have an experience of pain or strain, how they contribute to that. Or if you're someone who is working towards poses, specific poses like triangle, revolved triangle, extended side angle, or doing like splits or any of those kinds of really complex positions that involve this area of your body, you can start to recognize where and how you might be limited or stuck, congested, and then you'll probably get some insight about where you get to work, okay? So we're gonna begin on our backs. This is about a 5, I'm planning it to be 5 movements. As I get into it, we might add more, just word of warning. But we're going to begin initially here with our legs on the bolster. We're in Baddha Konasana and just lying on back like so. Now you could have your legs like Baddha Konasana here with the feet over. It's totally fine. You decide what makes the most sense for you. And we'll just be here initially for some really just easy check-in kind of breathing where you're just noticing how you are doing. And so you're noticing how, if you're up with me, it's 5 a.m. here, you're noticing how your night was with you, how you were with your sleep, how relatively rested you are, maybe what your day holds for you, what your brain's kind of doing, and just how connected you are. So just allow yourself to notice what it is. And if you're coming in later in the day and you're just checking in on what is this system called you? What is it? How is it? What is it doing? Very good. Okay. So now let's bring the legs back. Let's move the bolster away for now. Okay, so now we're here with knees bent, feet on the floor. And we're going to just slide that one leg forward and then we're going to bring it back up. So we're just moving in a sagittal plane. The leg is extending at the hip and then it's bringing flexion into the hip. Okay, one more. Extending at the hip, and then flexion. So just notice if as you move that leg, you want to have that pelvis go with, and only move perhaps as far as the pelvis doesn't have to go into an anterior tilt. And try not to use your abdominal muscles to like hold it from going back there. Just notice your desire of what you are doing. Okay. Now we're going to rotate the leg bone out. So it's going to look like your knees dropping out, which it is, but the articulation is the leg bone and the hip socket. Then you're going to slide that foot along the floor, and then you're going to bring it back up. Leg's going to drop out. Good, and then out, and then in. So you get to notice what's happening on this other leg, and if this other leg wants to swing to the opposite side to counterbalance, and just notice what your body and how your body is responding to this. And then perhaps see what happens if you only drop the leg out as far as the opposite leg doesn't have a counterbalance. So we'll do that one more time. And then let's go to the other side. So the leg's going to extend. And then you're going to bring it back into flexion. The leg is going to extend. And then back into flexion. Okay, now the leg's going to drop out and then you're going to slide it around and back up. Rotates out and then leg extends, and then back up. So start to notice what's going on in your rib cage and your jaw. Just further up the chain, just notice anything that is involved in the movement that doesn't have to be involved. This is where you start to really build efficiency in your movement, which ultimately will bring you way more vitality because less of your body is doing work that it doesn't have to do. Okay, good. Great. Now just straighten the legs out and let's just see what the heck just happened, having done those two movements. And then let's move into a supine side bend. We also often call this crescent moon on the floor. So think about your leg bone in your pelvis and slide, say, your right leg out to the right. Pelvis is quiet. Then the left leg, start to move that to the right. But notice if you've really had to brace yourself to do that movement. So come back for a sec and let's just double check that. Slide the right leg to the right, pelvis is quiet. Now slide the left leg toward the right, only as far as you don't have to brace to move it. Okay? So this is the bottom end of your crescent moon. And you can bring the left arm up alongside your ear, or maybe you don't go quite that far. Just notice what that arm and how that arm and that side bend is coming. All right, lovely. Bring the arm back down to begin, then bring the legs back, and now do the other side. Bring the left leg over, bring the right leg to the left, and then the other arm slides up like you are doing a snow angel, which my kids actually did for the first time in their life yesterday with our little snowfall here. And just be aware of that leg and that pelvis and the pelvis to the ribs and the ribs to the arm. A lot can change in your abdomen with this movement, and that can have a great impact on how your pelvis and how your leg bones function, which can shift up psoas issues and quadratus lumborum issues, SI joint issues, bursitis. Yeah, and then bring that leg down, or arm down rather, and then bring the legs across. Okay, lovely. Okay, we're gonna roll over to the side now. And I've got this thing I call a felt pad. You don't need a felt pad for this. All you need is like either a really small bolster or a blanket. But I'm gonna show you something here where I'm gonna roll this felt pad up. I'm gonna come close to the camera so you can actually see the width of it. So you can kind of get a sense. This is the width, okay? It's like about that much, okay? And I'm going to be placing it at the bottom of my torso, and my pelvis is right here. So you can see where my waistband is here. And so I'm going to place that so my pelvis can come over it, and I'm going to come into another side bend. So let me show you this. So I'm going to take this, you can use a blanket, and then you can come over top of this. So now my pelvis is on the bottom end of my pelvis is on the floor. Yeah. And I've come into a side bend. So my pelvis is not, what I'm not doing is I'm not on the pelvis I'm not on the roll with my pelvis. My pelvis is off the roll. This is in the lower back. That is where the roll is, okay? So once you're here, just settle yourself in. This might be too wide of a roll for some of you. Also watch if your pelvis wants to roll forward or if it wants to roll back. And so it just might be a coordination thing where you're just getting used to a movement like this if you've never done it before. Come back up and then slide back down again and just make sure that you're moving right directly in that lateral plane, okay? So you should think about if I want to use a should, the idea is you're between two planes of glass. You're not sliding, rotating back this way or through your torso. Okay, so it might be that you need something a bit smaller underneath you here. Alrighty, so now watch here with my hands and my pelvis. I'm going to start to move my pelvis that direction. So I'm going to make it's as if I'm making my waist longer. Yeah? So you can see this probably where my waistband is and my shirt is, that this area is getting longer. Now, it is getting longer, but not really. The change of that is because my pelvis is moving more to the side. So I'm continuing my pelvis to move it in a side bend. I'm not pulling up with the bottom side of myself, even though those muscles are contracting. I'm thinking more about moving this part of my pelvis that way. When people I have found, particularly very determined people, think about pulling up from the bottom side, and that's where their driver is, they can create all sorts of pain and strain. So what I recommend is, it depends on who you are, obviously, but I like to bring the focus more to the upper hip. Even though that's happening on the bottom side, it just becomes less sticky and overly focused. Okay, then also notice, if you want to use your shoulders and your jaw, it becomes really interesting when someone's really tight and limited and is unable to do the movement. What they'll often do is, instead of taking that pelvis into that side bend, so it's kind of like I'm moving the pelvis more like this, right? So I'm doing this motion between my pelvis and my ribs. When someone can't do that, then you'll see the compensation pattern. You'll see them wanting to utilize their ribs, and I'm doing this because I'm switching to the other side. You'll see them wanting to use the ribs or their jaw, or they'll round backwards. They'll go into a rotation type of movement, which can become really, really interesting. Okay, so I'm coming onto the side here, and then I'm not really rolling. I'm just leaning straight to the side. If you want, you can put something between your knees if you find that the angle of the leg is too angular for yourself. Just make sure that you're not in a rounded kind of fetal position, right? So you're trying to stay as long along the lateral plane as you can. Okay, so then once you're here, then it's this idea of moving your pelvis laterally. Sometimes, I know when I've done this with my husband, when he gets some SI joint stuff going, this is a movement that's very, very sticky for him. So if I just place my hand, or ask him to place his hand on his pelvis on the top part, his mind's eye comes to that place, and he can find that relative to his ribs much easier. Okay, lovely. Okay, come off of that now. And now lie on back, and let's see where we're at. What do you feel here? Let's bring one leg up to 90 degrees now. Place the hand on the front of the knee, and you're going to press that knee into the hand in an isometric contraction. And then bring that down. Other side. Press that knee into the hand. Good. And then bring that down. Right, ready, and again. Make sure you're not overdoing any bracing up by your shoulder or your neck and your jaw. That's it. And then the other side. All right, awesome, lovely. And easy breathing. Feel where you're at now. Now, you may have had a number of things arise out of that short little practice. And it may be that you've got some freedom and some more movement. And it's like, ooh, I need to do the things that I really want to do now, whether it's more complex movements or whether it is just some other movement, maybe up through your shoulders or down through your ribs, or maybe you want to get into standing. Just feel into your body and find out what it's asking you to do now. Because for some people, doing that one over the roll where you're going side bending can be quite freeing for many people. So it's like, whoa, now what can I do with my body? So just pay attention, listen closely, follow what you hear, and see what happens. Okay? And with that, we'll be back tomorrow. Take good care. Bye-bye.